It's great to be here today with Henry Levak from Logitech, head of product in VC product, which obviously is why we're here today and so exciting, and the one and only Ilya Bukshteyn, who has been with Microsoft for more years than I care to count, looking at your LinkedIn profile, and you're the GM of Teams for Microsoft, and I think you're also known as Mr. Teams in our world. I think everybody knows of you. So we're here to talk about the relationship between your two great companies. I mean, you've got an amazing partnership. We've been talking before about how that started sort of many years ago, and I'm sure we'll touch on that later. But I'd like to go through that relationship, also look at some of the exciting new products that you've got coming down the road. And then what I call the hybrid to heartache section, when we look at the move to the hybrid world, and how we're going to get it right, and what's the heartache of getting it wrong? Because I think there is a large responsibility on our industry to really help the world get back into the workplace and get back into education and medicine and all the other things that we touch as an industry that is a communication business, so to speak. So let's just start with you guys and how you work together. I think, Henry, where does it start? Where does that relationship start? How do you start working with Microsoft? Where did the ideas come from?
What's really special about both teams and how we kind of approach problems, it starts really with the end customer in mind. So a lot of what we do, a lot of what we think about really stems from what we're hearing, what we're seeing, and how we're interpreting it. And so where it starts is really it's the feedback. Our teams work really closely together. We're very open. We have a very great relationship that's spanned many, many years. And with that openness, we talk about what we see are the opportunities and how do we align both teams to work together. And I think there's a pretty long list of innovations we can point to very directly, and I'm sure we'll talk about it throughout today. But I would say it starts with really the customer, the user experience that we want to deliver, and working our way backwards.
And is that? I mean, Ilya, you're in a Teams first environment. Is it more Teams first, then you look at a company like Logitech to create the hardware to bring your product to life, or is it a bit the other way around, or some sort of joint co-innovation?
Kind of echoing what you said, I truly believe this. Hardware does bring these experiences to life. Where that makes you look your best self, sound your best self, connects you to the two of you on my screen in as rich a way as possible. And so we, at least in my role, and I really do believe this across teams, we do think of the hardware software experience all the time and how that could be made better. And you didn't ask me this, but I'll just jump in and add the thing I value about the relationship, just thinking back, is Logitech has been very, very similar to us, and I'd say almost a uniquely similar perspective about challenging the status quo in this space. When we talk, I think we were very aligned even years ago that every space should be video enabled. Every room in the home, every room in the office, everywhere in between. And it shouldn't be just the domain of boardrooms, and it shouldn't cost tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that desire to kind of challenge where the industry is and democratize the experiences with really, for us, easy to use and approachable software, and with Logitech, easy to use, easy to deploy, easy to manage, approachable, high quality hardware, that I think is what makes the relationship really fun.
So, I mean, it sounds like a marriage made in heaven, but like every marriage, you must disagree. So, where are the pain points, Henry? I'll let you get the first one in first. Yeah, where do you find the frustrations of working with such a big company like Microsoft?
Definitely wouldn't call them pain points. I would look at it as very healthy, discussions where sometimes you have difference in opinion on user experience or time scale. But I think this is actually a very healthy thing to do. You actually want two teams that have maybe come from something from a very different perspective. We obviously have a very hardware view of the world. We think about kind of global hardware distribution, and maybe in Ilya's case, it is maybe a secondary aspect to it. But I think it's a healthy tension. It's a healthy sort of conversation, and then that's how you come up with the best outcome. Is you have the hardware, you have the software, things come together and kind of push one another into maybe a direction that would be maybe traditionally be a little bit less comfortable, but it's pragmatic and that's what the customer wants. So I actually view that as a very healthy sort of let's call it tension.
No, that's right. I mean, I think like any good relationship or any good teamwork, you should be able to challenge each other. You know, if you can't challenge each other, you don't get the best result. And I think that's a great point, is the fact that if you can push each other to create better results, it's better for you both ultimately, and better obviously for the user. And Ilya, is there anything that, you know, when you look at Logitech's speed of development, I'm not going to ask you to criticize what they do, but where would you like to see things move more quickly? I mean, I think more from an industry point of view, not just Logitech development, because we're moving so quickly. Are there any areas which would be great to move faster?
I mean, I'll start by saying I have just immense respect for the pace Logitech moves in already. It's one of our former execs that I speak to quite a bit is keen on saying hardware is hard. And right now, like, there's shortages of everything. And so the job that all of our partners do, and I think Logitech does incredibly well at managing that and still fulfilling once in a lifetime demand with shortages of supply, like, that's just an immense problem and an immense set of skills to get that done. So just huge respect. Boy, would I love for everything to move faster? Sure. I think Henry would say exactly the same thing about my roadmap. So I think, much like what Henry said, I don't think it's a source of like pain point. I think it's a challenge that we both always have, is to align our timeframes. And we have things we need to do in the user experience and evolving that. We've got to map it to what Henry and his team is doing in delivering devices. And that's why we have jobs. That's a good challenge to have. We'll get it done. I mean, sure, I can challenge Henry on why he'd ever want to build for any other platform in addition to Teams. But no, seriously, I think it's a great challenge to have, to align an ambitious hardware roadmap with what I hope you think is an ambitious software roadmap.
That's an interesting point, the timetable. What time frame are you actually developing for now? How far out?
My area is a little unique because we have gone to Microsoft from, again, at the risk of aging myself here, or dating myself, from like 3 to 5 year plans to quarterly. And most of Teams and most other places Microsoft do quarterly and some semester or half year planning. My area has to do longer term planning. Any new piece of hardware is at least a 1 year, if not a 2 year endeavor. And so we absolutely do quarterly planning, and we tend to look out to kind of over a period of at least a year in advance. But that is challenging, I will say, in a agile software culture.
And Henry, just so I honor saying in that, Ilya, I mean, that to me, that's quick. I mean, the things that you're producing and the environment that you're producing, even a year or so is really quick, because there is so much involved in what you produce. I suppose, Henry, in that kind of ever increasing scale of evolution that Microsoft are producing, with Teams, is how far in front are you managing to kind of keep that radar pinging?
It's interesting, and if anyone should get credit for the pace of innovation, I definitely think it's Microsoft. I think you made a joke earlier, John, about trying to keep up with waking up every morning, looking on Twitter, what the new thing is. I mean, that's true. It is the amount of pure innovation and value that Microsoft Teams is generating right now is just immense. And so we definitely have our work cut out for them. I would say what's unique about being more on the hardware side is there's these short-term quarterly deliverables that we have and we want to deliver, and largely influenced by customers. The other aspect that my team and I spend a lot of time on, and hopefully you see it come out of our products and over the last year or two, is really kind of a systems thinking approach, right? We don't think of ourselves as a camera company. We make amazing cameras, but we don't stop there. And so we do have multi-year roadmaps. We do have plans, and we are thinking several years ahead, because what we want to do is every time we release a new product, we want it to feel like a puzzle piece, right? Like now it's like, makes sense why they did it this way. Now I can plug it into this thing I already have. That way my ecosystem of devices in my room expands. I think a great example is Scribe, Logitech Scribe, which is what we announced last week. We'll talk more about it, but this has been in the works for a while, and the reason there are 3 USB-A ports on the back of our Rally Bar Mini was in part because we knew this was coming and we wanted to be prepared for it. And then we know what's coming next, and so there's a lot of parts of the system that are already in place that some people don't recognize today, but one day when they see the other parts come in, they'll say, now it all makes sense. So we definitely think in trying to keep up with Ilya and some of these short-term innovations, and they are moving fast. But we also have to plan 3 years ahead to know that, hey, in 3 years from now, here's what the room will look like, and here are all the cables and the connectors and how they all connect together.
But like any puzzle, it's always good to get it done quickly. Sorry, Ilya.
Oh, no, that's okay.
But just while I got a chance with Henry, just tell us now where you're going to be in 3 years, and then we don't have to try and work it out as we go along.
So Ilya and I have been working on this AI bot that just does the work for you. So what they're doing right now is they're training on everyone working within Teams. That way, none of us have to work because AI will just do it for us. But
perfect.
Just between us.
I'm not actually here. Yeah, exactly.
So sorry, Ilya, you wanted to say something.
No, I just wanted to chime in that one of the things that has been just so cool to watch kind of from the side about Logitech is that system thinking, both in the technology and actually in the design language and in the marketing. So, one of the things that I wanted to give kudos on is if you look at the beautiful products behind Henry, if you were to line them all up, it's one family. And they clearly have a design language that is comfortable and consistent and modern. And that's true in the marketing materials that Logitech uses to market those. So it's been really cool to see that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm a great fan of Meetup, and you see how the Meetup form factor. I mean, people have copied that form factor the world over. I won't say the word copied, but that whole form factor has become a standard reference point.